Determined and on fast, in the face of mounting challenges and attendant hardships, the president marches on with his audacious reforms to change Nigeria. For this reason, THISDAY newspapers named President Bola Ahmed Tinubu Man of the Year. In his first and only media interview so far, presidential media chat that is, he told the nation, "You can't be doing the same thing and expect different outcomes." With that, President Tinubu served the nation notice of his resolve to stick to his reforms. The president, who ran his election campaign on the mantra of Emilo Kan, "It is my turn to be president," has gone through some of the most troubling phases of his less than 2 years old presidency. President Tinubu has also expressed satisfaction with his declaration as the Man of the Year by THISDAY newspapers. While receiving the vice president and state governors at his home in Lagos, President Tinubu called for stronger collaboration between the federal and state governments to address pressing challenges, including local government autonomy, agricultural productivity, and currency stability.
The elastic limit and the economic variables will determine how far individual could go. Storage, get belay, greed. As long as we work hard, you are the most important. I hate to continue to spell this out. My held on is about 30-35%. The rest, money comes to you. And the agricultural value chain will depend on all of you. You own the land. Whatever I'm doing in agriculture is just a mere help to stimulate food production. The job is in your hands.
Joining us on this show to discuss President Tinubu's economic reforms, to take a holistic look at the year 2024 and what the year 2025 holds for Nigeria, is Professor Anthony Kila, Director General, Commonwealth Institute of Advanced and Professional Studies, CIAPS. Good morning, Professor Kila.
Good morning and Happy New Year to everybody.
Well, I was looking forward to seeing you on Sunday, but it's just as well that we're seeing a few days earlier. This is Morning Show. Quickly, let me ask you, what's your assessment of President Tinubu's New Year message to Nigerians? A message of optimism, a message of resolve, a message in which he was asking for cooperation from local government chairmen and state governors, which he repeated during the visit to him yesterday, led by the vice president, by state governors. And then he's saying that, look, there's no looking back with his reforms. But some people say they have problems with reforms. But THISDAY newspaper says he's Man of the Year for his courage, for his determination, for his intentional approach to leadership. What do you think?
Well, I think you put two things on the burner. They are very linked to each other, but there are two things. The link between the two issues you've put on, i.e. the economic reform and the year and the speech of the president, the New Year speech, the two links are the man himself and the audacity, the boldness in those steps. So let's take it one by one. I think the speech was a good speech because really, what is the job of the president? The job of the president is to secure, unite, promote, and foster the interest of Nigerian people and land. That's a shortened summary of what the role of the president is. To do that, he then needs to do a lot of things. On the first day of the year, the main duty is to inspire hope, to say, this new year will be better than the last year. And I think it did that in that speech. I also think that it's a good speech because for once there was some clear deadline, again, rather audacious deadline. He talked about halving the inflation rate. That's a very clear target, tough target, I believe, but at least it's very clear. He talked about a few things with the calendar, what he's going to do in the first quarter and the second quarter. To that extent, is a good speech. I also believe that there is something missing in the speech. I believe, for example, that the ongoing pain of the people, although acknowledged, was not emphasized on as people would like it to be emphasized on. I also believe that the speech in its boldness and its confidence did not accept some errors and flaws of last year. To say these things happen, they would not happen again because we have put some things in place, we've changed some people, and indeed we fired some ministers, for example. I would have included that if I was writing that kind of speech. So to that extent, yes. I also think, though, that I've read some commentaries against the speech, and quite frankly, the speech is better than the opposition, the commentaries to the speech. Whilst I think I would not score the speech 100%, far from that. It's just above average, but it's a good speech. But I think the opposing commentaries against it are even poorer. Some of the opposing statements against that speech appears to have been written even before the speech was made, So you can see some indolence on the part of opposition, and that needs to be said in this new year. I'm sure we'll come back to that later on. In terms of the THISDAY Arise news, choosing President Bola Tinubu as Man of the Year, I think it is important for our viewers to understand that choosing somebody as Man of the Year does not mean the person is the best person in the country. It does not even mean that they've done good things. What it means is that they've had impact in the story of that country or that world in the year. A publication called Nigerian Panorama consulted me to the Man of the Year. I chose Donald Trump, but I guess I was thinking global. In Nigeria, one person that has been very impactful in Nigeria, in good or bad, that's the thing, in good or bad, it doesn't matter, that has led the story more than any other person in the year is definitely Bola Tinubu. To that extent, I agree with the THISDAY Arise editorial. But the problem is that in people's mind, it appears like an award to say you're the best performer. I think it's a chance to educate people that it doesn't mean that. There's no doubt that the reforms and the policies being put forward by this administration, led by President Tinubu, they're very radical, they're very bold ones. Now, let me call it radical because history will judge if President Tinubu is bold or reckless. If the reforms go very well, then we shall consider him bold. If they go badly, we shall consider him reckless. He'll be considered bold because in the face of adversity and political fear that his predecessors have had, he has done things they could not do. So if he's able to achieve, he will be remembered as a bold president. But if, after all this pain, then there is no gain in the end, then some of us will be authorized to refer to him as reckless.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Professor Kila. Now, to go to some of the statements that were made as the president hosted the governors yesterday at his home, he made some emphasis on the agricultural sector and, sort of handed over the power to the governors and said, you're responsible for this. Now, we know that in his predictions and promises for the year 2025, especially as outlined in the budget, a bumper harvest has been highlighted several times. However, this morning, if you look at the paper, the All Farmers Association of Nigeria has issued a warning. They're sending out a warning alarm saying that they foresee severe food insecurity, scarcity of food if care is not taken in 2025. Now, in light of this, what's your outlook of the agricultural sector and food security for us going into this year, Given the context of these reforms, the context of the fact that food inflation, lies at 39.3%, what trajectory are you seeing for us in your crystal ball for agriculture and food security?
Well, I guess, I don't know. Yes, I guess partly because I'm a farmer, partly because of my background in economics, or maybe partly because I like food. I don't know, from my size. Some viewers might be authorized to think it's because I like food. I have been going on about this food business throughout the year, for the past year. And I'm happy that people are taking note of it, people in power, that is, because people at home have always taken note. I think it's a good thing that there is desire, we cannot call it projection, desire for bumper harvest. I think it's a good thing that the president, the presidency, and all the governors are talking about the need to augment and to intensify our activities in the agriculture sector. I am not very, and that means we have to do the necessary things. I am not depressed by the fear of the farmers, because what they raise, the concern they raise, should ginger us to do the right thing. And those are the necessary things. What are these necessary things? Number one is that we need security. We need to secure the land. If need be, let us deploy our security architecture the way we deploy them for elections to the farm. We need to secure the farm. We need to encourage more people to go to the farm. We need to deploy finance so that those who are in agriculture, from planting, from sowing to rearing, from processing to distribution, can get access to the finance they need. We need to make that emergency. And then we need to ensure that we get the right quality of foods and service from our farms. That mindset, never mind the sad news that the farmers are bringing. It's fair, They don't want to spoil it. They're worried, they're concerned. I think it's a good thing that they are saying it on the 2nd of January so that we can address this immediately. Whatever you start addressing now, if people are resuming, on Monday, otherwise they call an emergency to show they're serious, go to the office today, tomorrow, and start addressing it. And I think, yes, by the end of the year, we can see how the bumper harvest. If the right intention and ability is there, that's what you need. You need vision and vigor to make it happen.
Well, Professor Kila, you just talked about agriculture. You talked about security. Both are linked. Yes. Farmers cannot go to their farms if, they are being attacked by, bandits or terrorists or whatever. But what other policy priorities do you think that the Tinubu administration should address in 2025? We have issues, for example, with oil and gas. Punch newspaper wrote this morning that, Dangote refinery may not get the 350,000 barrels of crude oil per day that was agreed upon about 6 months ago because of the coming on stream of Warri refinery and also old wing of the Port Harcourt refinery. Just as there are so many other issues beyond oil and gas, electricity, for example, pharmaceuticals. What would you say should be the main priorities for 2025?
I believe that what the government should do is really to go into a room and redefine its position in governance and in the country. Simplify all it needs to do and then move from there. So, for example, in terms of energy, be it oil and gas, be it electricity, the role of government is to make sure that energy is available as much as possible. They take it a notch further to make it also affordable. How do you make petrol affordable, for example? I believe it is by making the refineries work. And then the forces of market will reduce the price once the supplies increase. So the government, through all its agencies, and I say agencies, but in reality, I'm thinking of NNPC, should intensify its efforts in making sure refineries work. You've already mentioned agriculture and security. Those are two other very crucial issues that need to happen. I also think that the government should do as much as it can to ensure human capital development, not just making people ready for work, but also making sure the schools work and perhaps through the schools teach citizenry. I've seen that in the president's speech. There's an appeal to formation of citizens. That is something that can start really from our school. If we can, you see, we do a lot of things, but I break it down into 4 or 5 things, which for me are the major priorities in the year and moving forward. If we can get security right, get agriculture right, get our energy sector right, at least move towards getting it right, and then work on health and education, the country will be a better place, very quickly. And energy should be taken holistically, between solar energy, electricity, and every other means. There has to be that kind of vision. That is what it needs to be done. Perception also matters. So, for example, there are some intangibles that I will advise the government at all levels, but starting from the presidency, to take note of. Their rolling out of policies has to be more deliberate. Their communication has to be tighter and clearer. For example, you cannot throw a policy in, then take it back, then say you want to review it. No, there should be clearer things. You can't have a cacophony of spokesperson arguing among themselves. We don't know who's doing what. Those things I think are beneath the presidency of a country like Nigeria. They need to get together and clear those things. So that, for example, there are some people, I think of something like Ayo Abina, for example, who has always agreed with the policy of this government. But I noticed that when he writes, he writes better than the government. So, and you don't want to lose those kind of thoughts. The government needs to be tighter and clearer in what he does.
It was a fantastic conversation that we were having, and of course we will continue to have these conversations as we settle into 2025. Nigerians are expectant about what the government will do for us.